Nothing good ever happens when you find yourself where you shouldn't be. This time, it wasn't my fault. I was waiting at the stoplight when a guy pulled up next to me and motioned for me to roll down my window. "You've got a low tire," he informed me. I thanked him and pulled into the Walmart parking lot on my right. When I got out to inspect, I saw it, a screw head lodged in the tire tread, and air was seeping out slowly. Just my luck. Unsure of what to do, I went inside to buy a can of that slime tire sealant. Back at my car, I made a critical error. I removed the screw. Instantly, air started hissing out faster. Panicked, I screwed it back in, then drove to the gas station in the same parking lot to fill the tire with some air. I was only 15 miles from home, so I figured I could keep an eye on it and use the slime if it deflated too much. About 5 miles from home, I noticed the tire getting low again in the driver's side mirror. Pulling into a nearby convenience store, I discovered they didn't have an air pump. Time to test the slime. I injected the green goo into the tire. It's called slime for a reason, and was relieved when the hissing stopped. Just as I was about to get back into my car, a pickup truck rolled into the lot. It was one of those massive rigs with enormous tires, so tall you practically need a ladder to climb in. The door opened, and a tall, blonde guy in cowboy boots and a giant belt buckle stepped out. I recognized the truck from somewhere. Then, the passenger door opened, and a stunning raven-haired woman hopped down. I instantly recognized her. It was Zara, the woman I'd been married to for the past 18 years. What on earth was going on? I was parked off to the side, and they hadn't even noticed my car. It was a company vehicle, one of those unassuming, box-shaped imports. They were holding hands as they entered the store, and she was laughing up at him. It felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I was rooted to the spot. Then it hit me. I knew the guy. He worked at the same company as Zara. She was the office manager at a mental health clinic, and he was one of the caseworkers. I'd seen his truck at their building before. The burning question was, what was Zara doing with him? His name finally came to me, Simon Cooper. But why wasn't Zara at work? I was determined to find out the truth. I got back into my car and waited. When they came out of the store carrying cups of coffee, he helped her into the car. As they sped away, I followed at a discreet distance. They drove to our house, and he pulled into the garage. The door came down, obscuring my view. I sat there for 30 minutes, growing increasingly nervous about the tire. Although I kept checking it, I couldn't see any noticeable change. 2 hours later, the garage door lifted, and they drove past me. I quickly held a file folder up to hide my face, but they were too engrossed in each other to notice anything. She was practically glued to his side, both of them lost in their own world. Zara wouldn't be off work until 5, and it was just 2:30. I had plenty of time. My first priority was to go inside and see what I could discover. I also had to pick up my 15-year-old daughter, June, at 4, yet I had no idea what I would tell her. The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I hoped that whatever I found inside would provide some answers. When I stepped inside, a heavy silence engulfed the house. The only noise was the persistent drip of the faucet in June's bathroom, which I had been meaning to fix since June. The air conditioning whispered softly through the vents. I scanned the surroundings, but nothing seemed out of place. I made my way upstairs. The bed had fresh sheets. A feeling of dread hit me like a ton of bricks. I slid down to the floor, back pressed against the wall, feeling utterly numb. The situation had only one logical explanation. I must have sat there for half an hour, my mind spinning aimlessly. My thoughts were a chaotic blur, as though I were intoxicated. My stomach churned with nausea, prompting me to get up and open a Sprite. Feeling overheated and clammy, I returned to the bathroom. Rummaging through the vanity, I found a washcloth, dampened it in the sink, and pressed the cool, wet fabric to my face. The cold water revived me a bit, but then I noticed something alarming. The shower floor was wet. They had showered before heading back to work. In a stupor, I wandered back to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the freshly made bed, the very bed my wife and her lover had just shared. At that realization, I leaped up in horror, staring at it like it was a crime scene. I had no idea what my next move should be. One thing was certain: I was going to divorce Zara. That was undeniable, but I felt utterly lost. I didn't know any lawyers, had no clue about the legal process, and I still needed to pick up June from school. June, what would I tell her? I stumbled out to the car, feeling like I'd spent the last 10 days in a haze of intoxication. My head throbbed and I looked like a wreck, nowhere near fit to drive. But I couldn't leave June waiting. She was the one constant in my life, the only thing I could rely on. My baby girl would be okay. I'd make sure of that. Whatever happened from now on, she'd always be my priority. When I pulled into the line of cars, I saw her waiting by the school doors. June walked toward me, so beautiful it made my heart ache. She had her mother's dark hair and Mediterranean complexion, with eyes that seemed to blend brown, gold, and streaks of green. The doctor called them hazel, but they were unlike anything I'd ever seen. She was tall like me, all long, honey-brown legs and breathtaking beauty. She opened the back door and tossed in her backpack. Sliding into the front seat, she leaned over to kiss me, but suddenly froze. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Are you sick? Did something happen? Is Mom okay?" "What's wrong, Dad?" Panic began to creep into her voice, and I knew I had to calm her fears. "I'm okay, kitten," I reassured her. "No one is hurt or sick or anything like that. I need to talk to you, June. Let's go to the park, and let me hold you and talk to you for a bit, okay? Please hold off on the questions until we get there, all right?" "Okay, Dad, but you're kind of scaring me," she replied, her voice trembling. "I know, kitten, but everything is going to be okay," I promised, praying it wasn't a lie. It took us barely 5 minutes to reach the park. I had pushed her on these swings countless times. Both Zara and I had sat on these benches, watching her play on the equipment. Were those happier times destined to be just memories now? I wondered if my life had become an endless reflection on the past. As we walked to one of the benches, she held my hand, swinging her arms like she always had since she was just a tiny thing, barely able to walk. We sat down, and I struggled to find the words to begin. "Just tell me, Dad," she said. "I can handle it." "Well, I'm not sure I can," I replied. The story poured out of me. Everything I had seen, everything I felt, accompanied by tears streaming down my cheeks like a river. She held my hand throughout, and when my cascade of words and emotions finally dried up, she nestled against me. "It doesn't sound good, Dad," she said. "We need to go home and ask Mom about it. I guess everything depends on what she tells us. I know it looks bad, but we don't know enough. We have to talk to her." I kissed the top of her head, pride swelling in my heart. My baby was braver than I was. She tugged on my hand until I stood up. "Want to drive?" I asked. Her eyes lit up. She had just gotten her learner's permit. Momentarily, a shadow of doubt flickered across her beautiful eyes, but it quickly vanished. She drove us home carefully, and we saw Zara's car in the garage. This was it. Zara met us at the door with a hug and a kiss for each of us, acting as if nothing was amiss. Either she was an Oscar-worthy actress, or I had completely misread the situation. "Do you two want takeout tonight?" she asked. My treat. "I think we need to talk to you for a minute, Mom," June said. "Okay, is everything all right, baby?" "I don't know," June replied. "Let's find out." We went in, and I sat on the sofa beside June, leaving Zara to sit in that hideous chair she insisted on having. "What's up?" Zara asked, her face void of any concern. "How was your day?" I asked. She eyed me curiously. "Just the usual," she said. "One of the drug reps brought lunch from the onion bin. It was busy, and I hardly had a minute." "Why are you asking?" "So, you were at the office all day?" June inquired. "Of course," Zora said, starting to look uneasy. "What are all these questions about? What's going on?" "So, you weren't here at the house with Simon Cooper this afternoon?" I asked. Her face went pale. "Of course not," she replied. "Are you accusing me of something, Charles?" "I saw you," I told her. "What? You didn't see anything," she stammered. "What are you trying to do?" "He's lying, June. I was at the office all day. You can ask Polly." "No, I don't think he's lying, Mom," June said. "I think you're lying. I won't ask Polly. She'd cover for you. I think I'll give Wayne Torres a call. He's your boss, right? I don't think he'd lie for you. What's his number? He's left for the night, Zara said. I'll have him call you tomorrow. What are you two doing? Are you trying to trick me or something? You think you can come in here and trip me up? What are you accusing me of? I think you tripped yourself up, I told her. You lied, Zara. We all know you lied. Why would you do that? I could see the wheels turning in her head. Okay, I was here, she admitted, but this is why I didn't want to tell you. I knew you'd grill me and try to accuse me of something. No one has accused you of anything, June remarked, but I am now. You tried to paint Dad as a liar to cover up your own deceit. What's the truth, Mom? Are you having an affair with that guy? You don't even know him, Zara countered. Why would you call him a jerk? I've met him twice, June replied. The way he looks at me makes my skin crawl. But that's beside the point. Are you having an affair with him? Zara's eyes darted between us, resembling a trapped animal. After a tense moment, she finally spoke. I didn't want it to come out like this. I wasn't prepared. Prepared for what? June pressed. I've fallen in love with Simon, Zara confessed, glancing at me. I'm sorry, Charles. It just happened. We work closely together, and somehow we just clicked. He's like a missing piece of my soul. We couldn't help falling in love. I planned to tell you when we were ready. Once our divorces are finalized, we intend to get married. I didn't want you to find out this way, but June, it'll be okay. You'll still see your father whenever you want. Simon has a lovely place by the lake, and he has a daughter too. He likes you, and we'll be very happy together. Are you out of your mind? June almost shouted. I'm not living with that creep. He'd probably sneak into my room at night. And yes, I will see Dad anytime I want because I'm going to live with him. You, on the other hand, I won't be seeing at all. How could you? She stormed upstairs and slammed her bedroom door shut, the lock clicking audibly. Zara turned to me. She'll get over it, she said. Simon is a genuinely good guy, Charles. I think you'll like him. I need to be happy, and Simon makes me happy. That's all there is to it. I just stared at her, feeling as though I was speaking to a stranger. It was as if she had been replaced by someone else. I didn't want to argue with someone so disconnected from reality. Whatever, Zara, I said tersely. When are you moving out? Moving out, she repeated, looking stunned. I can't. Simon is still married, and we both need to finalize our divorces first. We'll have to wait for the settlements before we can figure out our next steps. No, you're moving out, I told her firmly. You have 3 days. Her eyes widened in shock. What are you talking about? You can't kick me out of my own house. If anyone should leave, it's you. You're forgetting something, I retorted. This house is mine. I owned it outright before we met, long before we married. It's not a marital asset. My name is on the deed, not yours. So yes, you're the one moving out. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, a note of desperation in her voice. Are you just going to throw me out on the street? Frankly, I don't care, I replied coldly. Maybe you can find a place like the Cheating Wife Motel or one of those pay-by-the-hour spots. Seems fitting for someone who does what you did. Her eyes welled up with tears. That really hurts, Charles, she said softly. There's no need for name-calling. I didn't plan to fall in love with Simon. It just happened. We just clicked, and I knew I needed to be with him. I never meant to hurt you. Right, it was an accident, I said with biting sarcasm. Like accidentally poking your eye out while running with a stick. My mom always warned me about such things. Well, now I see how it works. An accident. There's no need to be so sarcastic, she protested. Why can't you just accept that we're in love, Charles? I don't know, Zara, I said bitterly. Maybe it's because when I left this morning, you told me you loved me. Now you're saying you love him. It's confusing. I do love you, Charles, she insisted. I'll always love you. I'm just in love with Simon. Oh, that explains everything then, I said mockingly. For the last 18 years, you told me you were in love with me. I thought that's why we got married. We loved each other. I guess I was delusional. No, we were in love, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. You've got 3 days, Zara. If you're not out by then, I'll have the sheriff remove you and your belongings from the house." "Please, Charles," she pleaded, fear evident in her voice. "It doesn't have to be this way. We can still be friends. Simon wants to be your friend, too. We have our daughter June to think about. I love you and don't want to lose you as a friend. We've been together too long to just throw it all away." I stared at her for a minute, feeling the sadness and loss drain away, replaced by a surge of white-hot anger. "You must be out of your mind, Zara," I said. "Friends? With you? With that asshole? Absolutely not. You should tell that piece of shit to run the other way if he ever sees me. As for you, Zara, we're done. I'm going to burn down your house. You have 3 days to leave, and then I never want to see you again. I'll talk to a lawyer in the morning to expedite the divorce." I turned and went to the bedroom, leaving her standing there, making noises that sounded like white noise to me. She trailed after me, still spouting her nonsense about friends, while I moved her things into the spare bedroom. She had more clothes in the closet than I could carry, so I draped them over her, took an armful to the spare room, and hung them up. She followed me, yapping and watching, but when she went to hang up some clothes, I used the opportunity to leave and lock the bedroom door behind me. I heard her come down the hall, try the knob, and then walk away. Within a few minutes, June texted me, "You okay, Dad?" "Yes, kitten. You?" I replied. "No, but I will be," she answered. "All right. Love you," I texted back. "Let me know if you need anything." "Can you take me to school in the morning?" she asked. "I don't want to ride with her." "Of course," I responded. I got into bed, but couldn't sleep, my mind racing about what I needed to do next. I finally drifted off around 3, only to be awakened by my phone alarm shortly after. I got up, took a shower, and called my boss. I explained that I was getting a divorce and needed a few days off. He offered his condolences and told me to take as much time as I needed. After making some coffee and having a couple of cups, I prepared breakfast for June and myself. Right on schedule, June came down, looking as radiant as ever, and devoured her meal. Zara soon followed, grabbing a cup of coffee and attempting to make conversation, but we ignored her. When it was time to leave for school, Zara asked June, "Are you ready?" June simply looked at her, then turned to me and asked, "You ready, Dad?" Jingling my keys, I nodded. She grabbed her backpack. Zara, frustrated, remarked, "Okay, act like 2-year-olds if it makes you feel better," and stalked off to get her purse, throwing one last glare our way before leaving. I drove June to school, and she kissed me goodbye before heading in. As I watched her go, I thought of my friend Dan, who had recently gone through a divorce. I decided to call him and find out which attorney he used. He didn't recommend his own attorney, but instead suggested using his wife's attorney, giving me her name and number. When I called, a woman answered and put me on hold after I stated my purpose. She eventually agreed to meet me that afternoon. With our investments, there wasn't much I could change, but I could at least prevent her from running up credit card bills. So, I called and lowered the credit limits on our cards to $500. While this would also limit my own spending, I was determined not to fund her scheme. My appointment with Amanda Morris started poorly. She had made some incorrect assumptions, thinking I was leaving Zara for a new remodel. I had to clear that up before we could begin discussing the real issues. "You really need to reconsider," I told her. "She's been involved in an affair with her married colleague, and they've both decided to divorce their partners and marry each other." "I'm sorry," she responded. "I can't represent someone making that kind of decision. I wouldn't be able to face myself." "I understand," I said. "We have a daughter, and I want to minimize the impact on her. Do you think it's possible for me to get custody?" "It's possible," she said. "Legally, either parent has an equal chance of securing custody, but in reality, fathers rarely gain custody, especially of daughters. How old is she, and does she want to stay with you?" "She told me she does, and she's 15, I answered. "That will significantly influence the court's decision," she explained. "In this state, children over the age of 14 get to choose, and the preferences of younger children are also taken into account. If she were much younger, your chances would be slim. Her desire to live with you at age 15 and having you as her primary residence will be a major consideration in the custody arrangement. This shouldn't be a problem. Just do your best, I said. As I drove home, my mind raced with thoughts about my next steps. Whatever I did, it had to be legal. I couldn't afford to end up in jail, especially since that would mean losing June. I needed to carefully consider my options. It's wise to ensure that when you're causing damage, your own house remains unscathed. This situation demanded cautious planning and strategic thinking. I suspected Simon's wife was as in the dark as I had been, so my first move would be to inform her. A to-do list was in order. Letting her family know was top priority. Zara's parents adored me and loved June even more, so they needed to be kept in the loop. Figuring out the best way to approach this was tricky. Rallying our friends and leveraging social media to put pressure on Zara and Simon was also on the agenda. Zara managed a Facebook account for our family, a platform I was quite familiar with. I knew my way around it, especially Messenger. After some online sleuthing, I discovered that Simon's wife had a similar footprint. I took screenshots of pertinent photos and made a dramatic post on Zara's page, announcing our impending divorce and revealing she had found her soulmate in Simon, complete with his picture. I then changed the account password and logged out. That felt satisfying. I wondered how swiftly her friends and family would react, bombarding her phone and Facebook page. I hoped Simon's wife would get the message. I didn't know her but felt a pang of guilt about the turmoil she was about to experience. Still, I believed she, like me, would prefer to know the painful truth rather than remain ignorant. I reached out to my mom. As expected, the conversation was rough, filled with disbelief. She assured me, though, that she would inform Dad and that they were there for me for anything I needed. I decided Zara should be the one to break the news to her parents. We were close, and I didn't want to be the cause of a family rift. Besides, I couldn't imagine how to deliver news like your daughter is a cheating whore tactfully. Her parents might metaphorically shoot the messenger. The fallout began sooner than expected. Around 2 p.m., Zara's number appeared on my screen. I picked up, and she was absolutely livid. "You jerk." Her initial outburst brought me immense satisfaction. "You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? I know you're the one who locked me out of Facebook. Take that stuff down." Simon's wife is still in the dark. Now all my friends are bombarding me with questions, and my parents know everything. "I'm telling you, Charles, take it down." "No way, you're not the boss of me," I shot back. "Are you kidding me? What are you, a toddler? Take it down, Charles, I'm serious." "And why should I?" I challenged. "You should be grateful. Now everyone can get acquainted with the real you and your soulmate. Are you embarrassed that people know you're an unfaithful liar, Zara?" "I'm not." She hesitated, realizing how ridiculous her argument was. "Charles, please just take it down. It wasn't supposed to turn out like this. The moment you cheated, you lost any right to dictate how things should be," I said coldly. "You forfeited any claim to my consideration, respect, or even basic politeness. I made it clear you're the enemy now, Zara. Get used to it." I ended the call, but my phone buzzed immediately again. Ignoring it, I knew it was time to pick up June. I relayed the outcome of my conversation with Amanda Morris to her. While she was happy that she would likely be staying with me, a general sense of discontent lingered. "Dad, what's wrong with her?" she asked. "You know I love her, but she's always been a bit off. I've never really seen her as an adult, not like you. It's like you've had 2 kids, her and me. Have you ever noticed?" "Not quite like that," I replied. "Now that you mention it, she's always been impulsive, but I never imagined she'd go this far." "We'll just have to make the best of it," she said, sighing. "Dad, I never want to be alone with that creeper without you around. Promise me that won't happen." "I'll do my best," I assured her. We picked up a pizza on our way home, and I was just enjoying my second slice when my phone buzzed again. It was Nat, Zara's father. With a sense of unease, I told June who it was, and she insisted I put it on speaker. He got straight to the point. "Charles, I don't know the full story, but Zara showed up last night asking if she could stay with us. Can you explain what happened?" "Did you ask her?" I replied. She said you kicked her out. That's true, but did she mention why? No, she said she would explain later, but wasn't ready yet. Don't you think it would be better to wait for her explanation? I suggested. Can't you just tell me? He insisted. She's been having an affair with Simon Cooper, a colleague from work. He's planning to divorce his wife, and she was planning to divorce me. They've been seeing each other, I revealed. What? That's unbelievable, Charles. How do you know for sure? I caught them together yesterday, I answered, and she admitted it. Are you certain there wasn't some misunderstanding? He questioned. June chimed in. Hi, Grandpa. I've been listening. Dad has you on speaker. There's no misunderstanding. I was there when she confessed. I'm so sorry, Grandpa. I love you. Her voice cracked, and he could hear her sobbing. When he spoke again, his own voice was unsteady. Don't cry, love bug. Please, stay strong, okay? I love you, and so does Grandma. I'll try to reason with your mom. Charles, are you still there? Yes, I'm here, Nat. Don't worry about June. You are her grandparents, and that will never change. I know you love Zara, and you'll do what needs to be done. I respect you more than words can express. I hope this situation won't make you resent me. That will never happen, he reassured. I'll get to the bottom of this. Call me if you need anything. Things went better than I had feared. Life throws challenges, and you do the best you can. The details of the divorce aren't necessary to recount, as most people know someone who's been through it. It was a long and painful process that never eased. Zara was apparently delusional, believing she would get custody of June. That didn't happen. Ms. Morris lived up to her reputation, and I was granted full custody, based on June's expressed wishes. After a private meeting with June, the judge ruled that Zara would have unrestricted visitation, but with the condition that June wouldn't be left alone with her and Simon Cooper. Ultimately, it didn't matter. His wife divorced him, but it was clear that the whole soulmate narrative had been exaggerated, at least from his perspective. Just 2 weeks after I found out about their affair, he had moved on to a new conquest. All those sweeping plans vanished like morning mist on a sunny day. It took 7 months for the divorce to be finalized. Zara had a change of heart. During our second court appearance, she surprised me by requesting the judge to order counseling. Despite the objections from both me and Ms. Morris, the judge complied. We were scheduled for 8 to 10 sessions. Our therapist turned out to be an eccentric old hippie. In our first session, we were asked to state our goals. Zara's response was long-winded and convoluted, suggesting she believed I should realize that her happiness was the universe's primary focus, and that her intentions were pure. My response was much simpler. What are your goals for these sessions, Mr. Jackson? The therapist asked. My goal is to get them over with, I replied. Our so-called spirit guide frowned. Mr. Jackson, do you really have no interest in addressing the issues that brought your marriage to this point? I'm sorry, Mr. Ramirez, but it wasn't my issues that led us here. And no, I have no interest in addressing them. I'm quite content with my issues and fully intend to keep them. Zara and the therapist looked equally horrified. Zara didn't hesitate to jump in. Charles, how do you expect us to get back to where we were if you aren't willing to at least talk about this? I don't, I said. Let me make this clear to both of you. I don't care about getting back on track or working on problems. I'm here because it's court-ordered. I'll do what's necessary to satisfy that court order, then we'll return to court and finalize the divorce. That's my plan. Mr. Pathguide warned, are you aware that if I go back to the judge and report that you refuse to cooperate, you could be cited for contempt? I didn't know that, I replied. Are you suggesting you'd lie to the judge? Remember, these sessions are recorded. My attorney would be eager to subpoena the recordings and expose your perjury. I'm here, following your instructions. You asked about my goals, and I shared them. So yes, I'm cooperating. Mr. Pathguide's face reddened. I believe the judge expected you to attempt resolving your issues, he said. I'm not responsible for the judge's expectations, I responded, just my own. He certainly made things challenging. He assigned me tasks that involved spending substantial time with Zara, who worked tirelessly to wear me down. "Charles, what would it take for you to drop the divorce and work things out?" she asked. "An act of God," I replied. She waited for an explanation, but I remained silent until she couldn't take it anymore. "What do you mean, an act of God?" she eventually asked. "If you can somehow rewind time and not sleep with Simon, that would suffice," I said. "Otherwise, only God has that power. Have you developed any supernatural abilities you haven't shared with me, Zara? Aside from attracting other men, that is." We endured dreary exercises and hollow mantras until the sessions finally concluded. In court, the judge inquired about our progress. "Your Honor, there is no possibility my client will remain married to his wife," Amanda Morris stated. "We request the divorce be granted as swiftly as possible. My client and his daughter have been dragged through this process long enough." Apparently, the judge concurred, as the decree arrived in the mail 10 days later. June saw her mother frequently because she adored her grandparents and spent a significant amount of time with them. Occasionally, Zara planned activities that June agreed to join, but it was never the same. June mostly spent time with friends, and one friend in particular, a tiny blonde girl named Rebecca, seemed to be at the top of her list. Rebecca practically lived with us. She was as cute as a month-old kitten and as sweet as honey. I was glad to have her around, and they even began including me in some of their activities. One of the activities they cherished was water skiing. We owned a boat, and with the arrival of summer vacation, most Saturdays were spent at a nearby lake. One Monday, they asked if we could spend the weekend at the lake, taking our RV and staying until Sunday evening. Given that my social calendar was rather empty, I thought it was a fantastic idea. June and Rebecca spent the week planning, and by Thursday, we had everything packed. On Friday afternoon, a new red Jeep Cherokee pulled into our driveway, and Rebecca excitedly jumped out. Almost simultaneously, an almost identical woman stepped out from the driver's side. June ran over and embraced this unfamiliar woman in a robust hug. Rebecca and June then brought the nervous-looking woman over to me. "Dad," June said, "this is Victoria. She's Becky's mom, and I know you haven't met her yet." Victoria extended her hand with a smile. "Hello, Charles. The girls have told me so much about you. Thank you for inviting me along this weekend. To be honest, I've been a bit envious that they spend so much time with you instead of me." Her mischievous smile was a clear indication of where her daughter got her charm. I looked at June, who shot me a stern look, making my knees tremble. Becky's raised eyebrow intensified my unease. "It's going to be a blast," I managed to tell Victoria, regaining my speech. "We always have a great time." She wasn't fooled. Her eyes darted from me to the girls and back. "Oh my God," she exclaimed. "You didn't know, did you, girls?" Before she could say another word, she was enveloped in a flurry of hugs, kisses, and pleas. "Please, Mom, don't worry. We're going to have so much fun," Rebecca insisted. "It's okay, Victoria. Dad is going to love you as much as I do, and he's a great guy," June reassured. "Look how he just went along." Victoria disentangled herself from the clinging girls and assessed them. "You two go sit on the porch." "I need to talk to Charles," she instructed. They reluctantly obeyed after she firmly repeated, "Now." Turning to me, she apologized. "I'm so sorry, Charles. I had no idea. I'm going to take Becky and leave. She's going to be grounded for a month. God, this is so embarrassing." She looked so small and embarrassed that I instinctively stepped forward and hugged her. Initially, she tensed up, but soon enough, she relaxed into the embrace. "Yeah, it is embarrassing," I admitted. "They're a handful, but we both know they mean well. Let me guess, you're not married, are you?" She glanced up, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "No, I'm not. Do you think that's why they did this?" "I'm almost certain of it," I replied with a grin. "Here's the situation. You're packed, your weekend is free, the weather at the lake will be fantastic, and as you've probably gathered from being around June, I'm not a bad guy. Let's go along with their plan. It could be fun. We might even get a laugh out of it. What do you say?" She stepped back, looked over at the girls who were watching us expectantly, and then said, "Yeah, let's go." I gave the girls a thumbs up, and they sprang to their feet and rushed over to join us. June burst out with an exuberant yeet. I stopped them in their tracks, taking one under each arm. "Curls, that wasn't very nice," I said. Becky looked up at me and, in her best Skeletor impression, cackled, "I am not nice." We all burst out laughing. Their innocence and cuteness were too disarming. "We know what you're trying to do," I told them. "Seriously, you can't just go around trying to arrange other people's lives." "But I love Vicky, and I didn't know how else to get you to meet her," June protested. "Well, you could have just told me," I suggested. She looked a little downcast. "It's okay, kitten, just don't do it again," I said gently. She immediately brightened up, and Becky tugged on my arm. "Let's go. I can't wait. This is going to be sick nasty, Charles, you'll see." Victoria laughed. "I think that means it's going to be really cool, Charles. She's right, though. We're wasting daylight." We grabbed a couple of bags from her Jeep and climbed in. With the boat hitched, we made a quick stop for propane and then set off. During the half-hour drive to the lake, Victoria sat up front with me while the girls played some questionable music through their Bluetooth connection. It gave us a chance to get to know each other better. It turned out that Victoria had her own insurance company and also did financial planning. Taking her in as I glanced over during our conversation, I couldn't help but think, God, she was cute. I imagined Becky would look just like her when she reached Victoria's age. Though she seemed much younger, she was only 3 years my junior. She stood at about 5 feet tall, with light blonde hair cascading down to her lower back and a golden tan. Her features included huge brown eyes, high cheekbones, and a perfect little heart-shaped face with a widow's peak crowning a broad forehead. She wore jeans and a button-up top, her slender and willowy frame apparent even through the casual attire. I didn't want to seem like a creep, so I refrained from fully checking her out until we reached the lake. Once there, we secured a slip for the boat and parked the RV. They asked me to step outside while they changed, so I took the opportunity to hook up the water. When they were done, I went inside, changed into my trunks and a t-shirt, and we were ready to go. With a cooler full of drinks, we set off. After cruising out of the no-wake zone, I opened up the throttle. A couple of miles down the lake, the girls were ready to ski. They shed their long t-shirts, revealing their usual awkward beauty, but Victoria was in a league of her own. Victoria was slender and petite, exuding a natural grace. When she turned to watch the girls from the back of the boat, I was momentarily stunned. Her bikini wasn't the latest fashion, but it clung to her curves, struggling to cover her eye-popping, small, round, and firm derriere. She caught me staring and simply smiled and winked. She had small breasts that, while tiny, were perfectly proportioned for her petite frame. Everything about her was perfection in miniature. "Done?" she asked, her smile softening the question. Her teeth were perfect, too. I laughed. "For now. You know what you look like, Victoria. I'm a man." She sat beside me where she could chat and keep an eye on the girls. We spent 3 hours skiing, and Victoria proved to be very skilled. She even took the wheel while I had my turn, expertly maneuvering the boat. I wasn't as good at skiing as either she or the girls, given the physics, but I managed to hold my own. Back at the park, we decided to cook outside, despite the RV having a perfectly good range. I set up the camp stove and built a fire in the grill. I grilled bratwursts while the girls cut up and fried potatoes and onions and opened cans of pork and beans. Although we had prepared and packed some meals at home, this being our first night made camp cooking extra special. We sat at the picnic table provided at the site, and soon it felt like we'd known each other all our lives. Victoria became Vicky, as the girls affectionately called her, and she referred to me as Charlie. The girls often brought up that Vicky wasn't married, prompting me to finally ask her about it. "You're stunning, hilarious, intelligent, and you run your own business. Why hasn't someone snatched you up yet?" She paused for a moment before replying, "The main reason is Rebecca. I was young and foolish, Charlie. I found out I was pregnant during my senior year of college, just a week before graduation. I wasn't too upset because we had planned to get married after graduating." "I take it that plan fell through," I said. "Yes, it did. 3 days after I told Brad, I discovered he'd been cheating on me for a month, so I left him and never looked back. When Becky was born, my social life took a backseat. I focused on building my business, and by the time I had the chance to think about dating, I realized I had this incredible blessing in my life. I couldn't do anything without considering her. I get that, I said. I feel the same way about June. She means the world to me and kept me sane over the last 18 months. Vicky gently placed her hand on my arm. I know, she said. June tells Becky and me everything. I'm so sorry, Charlie. Life can be tough sometimes, I sighed. We glanced over to see our daughters watching us with approving smiles, engaged in whispered conversation under the shade of the awning. I adore your daughter, I told Vicky. She feels like family with all the time she spends at our place. She adores you too, Vicky said. She mentioned that you're like the father she never had. Tears welled up in her eyes, and a tear rolled down her cheek. I gently wiped it away. She's an amazing girl, and I think her mom is incredible for raising her alone. With teary eyes, she smiled, stood up, kissed my cheek, and joined the girls. We had a fantastic weekend. As Vicky was preparing to leave, I walked over and tapped on her window. Vicky, would you consider going out with me next Friday? Becky squealed in delight, and Vicky's face lit up with a smile. What time? How about 6? Dinner and then something fun afterward. Can June stay with Becky while we're out? That sounds wonderful, and of course, she said, kissing my cheek before driving off. June awaited me at the door. So, did you ask her out? Did you kiss her? I hugged her and playfully smacked her bottom. Yes, I did, and that's none of your business. She squealed just like Becky had. I knew it. She's perfect for you, Dad. I love her so much, and Becky feels like my sister. I shrugged. We'll see what happens, June. You can't force these things. Stop trying to play matchmaker. She nestled her face into my chest. I know, Dad, but you were never going to do anything but love me if I didn't take the initiative. Not that I don't enjoy being the only woman in your life. I chuckled softly. You'll always have a special place in my heart that no one else can touch. You're my little girl, and that will never change. She purred contentedly and snuggled me for a moment before heading off to do her own things. Our first date went really well. I introduced her to racquetball, a game she was new to but quickly adapted thanks to her tennis background. The mechanics were similar, and once she got used to the rules and hitting off the walls, she was a natural. Being a natural athlete certainly helped. She was incredibly quick and could change directions much faster than I could. Her small stature worked to her advantage in this game. After we finished, we cooled down at a table outside the courts, sipping on drinks and resting. She picked up her phone. Let's snap the kids, she suggested. We posed with our rackets and goggles, and she took a snap. They replied right away, creating a good memory for everyone. Afterward, we both showered, and I took her out for a delicious Italian dinner. We indulged ourselves, enjoying every bite. As we finished our wine, Vicky sat beside me in the booth. We leaned back, quietly chatting and relaxing. It felt natural to put my arm around her, so I did. She scooted closer and smiled up at me. I couldn't help but think how cute she was, a quality that I knew would never fade with time. When we arrived at her house, she leaned over, looking up at me expectantly. I could tell she wanted me to kiss her, and I wanted to kiss her even more. I leaned in, and our lips met in a long, delicious kiss. Her lips were soft and plush, tasting of wine and cherry chapstick. As we pulled away from each other, I noticed the curtains shift slightly. I think we have an audience, I remarked. She laughed, a sound that mirrored her daughter's, or perhaps it was the other way around. Not surprised. You know they're trying to set us up, right? Do you mind? I asked. She blushed. No, I like everything I know about you, Charlie. Me too, I responded. We better get in there before they decide to tear down the drapes. We began going out every Friday for the next 4 months. Our bond grew deeper with each date, and I found myself wanting to advance our relationship. I didn't want to rush her, but some of our evenings were ending on a rather steamy note. I also discovered I valued her friendship nearly as much as our romantic connection. We were in constant communication, phoning each other frequently, exchanging funny snaps or texts throughout the day. Whenever I encountered something amusing or noteworthy, I felt compelled to share it with Vicky, knowing she'd enjoy it. Our intimacy deepened as we became familiar with every detail of each other's lives. We began having dinner together with the kids every Tuesday, turning it into a fun night of games and relaxation. I found myself growing almost as fond of her daughter, Becky, as I was of Vicky. They were strikingly similar in many ways, yet their differences made each of them uniquely endearing. Life was wonderful, marred only by the persistent presence of Zara. She still played a role in June's life, and by extension, mine. I wanted nothing to do with her, and just seeing her grated on my nerves. She never missed an opportunity to try to engage me in conversation whenever she came to pick up June, or when I dropped her off at her grandparents'. Zara was still living with them, having lost her job at the clinic along with Simon, and was now working at another private clinic across town. When she pushed my buttons too much, I had a go-to question to shut her down. "Have you heard from him?" It never failed to quiet her. On one such occasion, she asked, "How long do you plan to hold this grudge?" Grudge? Over what? I responded, "You don't even acknowledge you did anything wrong." Not once have I heard, "I'm sorry, Charles. I was wrong. I'm sorry I tried to make June think you were a liar, that I tried to take her from you, that I tried to ruin you in the divorce. And worst of all, not once did you say, 'I'm sorry I cheated with that lowlife behind your back.'" Of course, I didn't hear it this time, either. She never owned up to her actions. Forgiving her was a journey I hadn't figured out yet. But I wasn't consumed with bitterness. I'd made peace with it. People make dumb decisions. They have the right to leave, divorce, and friendships. Accept it and move on. Every day, people do crappy things. In the heat of the moment, I had wanted to punish both cheaters, but I moved beyond that swiftly. Their real punishment was being themselves. They had to live with their choices, while I intended to live a good life. Zara was miserable, and while I wished Simon all the bad luck in the world, I was done playing that game. Let karma handle it. She became even more miserable when she found out I was dating Vicky. One evening, after dropping June off at her grandparents', Zara approached me in the driveway. "I hear you're dating one of June's friends' moms," she said. I stared at her in silence. "Is it true?" she pressed. "That's my business," I replied. "Like hell it is," she snapped. "I'm your wife. I have a right to know." "No, you don't," I corrected. "You're not my wife anymore. You found your soulmate, and it wasn't me, remember? Then came the divorce. My business is no longer yours, and yours isn't mine. Back off, Zara. Stay out of my affairs." I was livid when I left. Zara just wouldn't let it go. I told June what had transpired, and she was just as furious as I was. After that, Nat or Gloria, the grandparents, always picked June up from our house instead of Zara. This change eliminated a significant source of stress from my life. On the 7th-month anniversary of our lake trip, I took Vicky out for a celebratory evening. We dined at a nice restaurant and then headed to a club. Vicky rarely drank, usually just a beer or an occasional cocktail, but that night she ordered a second drink. I raised an eyebrow, curious. She chuckled. "Yeah, I'm wild and crazy tonight, huh?" "You're perfect, just like always," I replied. "Do you really think so, Charlie?" She tilted her head in that adorable way she had. "Because I think you're pretty perfect, too. If I'm so perfect, why haven't you invited me to spend the night?" I must have looked quite taken aback because she laughed. "Have you not even thought about it?" I gathered my wits. Yeah, Vicky. I've thought about little else since the first day I saw you in that bikini on the boat. As we started dating, I realized you were something unique and special, and I didn't want to pressure you or make you uncomfortable." "You won't scare me off," she said. "I told the girls not to wait up." "Really? Well, what are we doing here then?" I asked, eagerly. "Oh my God, Vicky, let's get out of here. Do you want to spend the night with me?" Blushing, she took my hand and let me help her to her feet, more than anything else in the world right now. As soon as we got out of the car, she practically melted into me, clutching my arm all the way home with her head nestled against my shoulder. When we arrived at the garage, she stayed close, pressing herself to my side as we made our way to the bedroom. We barely slept that night, but it was the most wonderful night of my life. I woke up the next morning to find her draped halfway over me, her hair cascading around us, and her cheek resting in the hollow of my shoulder. I lay there, gently toying with her hair, watching her sleep until she slowly opened her eyes. She snuggled closer and let out a contented moan. "I belong here, Charlie," she whispered. "I know," I replied. "Would you like to wake up here every morning?" Her eyes widened as she looked at me. "You mean live together?" "No, sweetheart." "Well, yes, but what I really mean is, will you marry me, Victoria Brown?" She raised her left hand between our faces and wiggled her fingers playfully. "Oh," she said. "Something seems to be missing." "Hold that thought," I said, starting to get out of bed. "I'll hold that thought," she chuckled, "but I can't hold something else. I've got to pee so bad." I laughed and gave her a playful tap on the butt, making her squeal. "Go on, then meet me back here." She scampered off like a little naked sprite, and I headed down to my office, making a quick pit stop myself. After grabbing what I needed from the safe, I returned to find her curled up under the covers. I slid next to her and took her left hand again. Looking into her eyes, I saw pure love. "Victoria, will you marry me?" I asked, slipping the ring onto her finger. It was a tad too big and would need resizing, but it would do for now. She held it up, admiring it. "It's beautiful," she marveled. "It looks old. Where did you get it? When did you get it?" "Remember I told you I was going to that auction?" I replied. "It was about a month ago." "Yes, I remember. They were auctioning off an estate, right?" "Exactly. What I didn't tell you was that I saw this ring in the catalog and went with the intention of buying it to propose to you. It was made in England around 1810 for the Duchess of Avon. It has a very rich history. Do you like it?" "I love it," she said. "It's the most beautiful ring I've ever seen." "Are you going to answer my question?" I teased. "What?" "Oh, yes, Charles. Yes, I'll marry you." "Oh my God, yes." I laughed and pulled my fiancé into a tight embrace. "We need to snap the girls," she said excitedly. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.